Greetings to all true boxing fans. This is a prediction for the fight between Brian Norman and Jin Sasaki. The belt will take place in the coming days. Specifically, it will be held on June 19th in Tokyo, Japan. It will take place during the day on Thursday. Guys, pay attention, the fight is already this Thursday, so it's coming up very soon. The weight class is welterweight, that's 66 kilograms and 700 grams. A very prestigious division. Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, and Terence Crawford had their most iconic fights in this very weight class. The fight is also scheduled for 12 rounds and has a 5-star rating on BoxRec, which is a very good indicator. And at stake is the WBO World Champion title. The promoter is Japanese, Hideyuki Ohashi. Guys, we're about to look at the odds, but first, what's the main point of this fight? The American, Brian Norman, just won the title. He won the title only 2.5 months ago. 2.5. So, it was really just recently. It hasn't even been 3 months yet. And as soon as he won the title, he's immediately heading to Japan to face Jin Sasaki. And Jin Sasaki is the challenger. His promoter is organizing this boxing event and offering good purses. And, naturally, the Japanese fighter will try to take that title from Brian Norman. The question is, will he succeed or not? Bookmakers think he won't, because they're giving odds of 1.27 for the American, Brian Norman, to win. That's a low odds. Brian Norman is the clear favorite. Accordingly, for the Japanese fighter, Jin Sasaki, the odds for his victory are 3.95, almost 4. So the Japanese fighter is a strong underdog. Bookmakers are also highlighting the 11th round, specifically the so-called over 10.5 rounds total. That is, whether the fight will last less than 11 rounds or more than 11 rounds. Overall, they see the chances as probably about even. So basically, this means there will either be a knockout or there won't. Roughly speaking, they see it as about 50-50. They lean just a little more toward a knockout. Also, a couple of words about the stats. Look, we could go over the detailed stats for each boxer, but that would be boring. Let's just watch the fights instead. The stats are brief. What stands out is how equal the numbers are. For example, on BoxRec, champion Brian Norman is ranked 4th and Sasaki is ranked 3rd. They're really close. Again, their ages, 24 and 23. Again, their heights, 1.73 m and 1.74 m. So, everything is pretty much close. The only thing that differs is their fight records, but we'll talk about that as we watch the matches. I suggest we start with Brian Norman. He's an American, 24 years old. And I've started with a highlight reel of Brian Norman's knockouts. And do you know why? Because he has a really high knockout percentage. So, Norman has 27 fights, 27 wins, and, I think, 21 knockouts. That means his knockout rate is 75%. Actually, it's even a little higher. That's a really impressive stat on paper, right? Much. So, he's a knockout artist. But, when I started watching Brian Norman's fights, I noticed some strange things. He doesn't always hit that well. That uppercut, now that was really good. But what comes next? Brian Norman's boxing technique really reminds me a lot of Timothy Bradley. Basically, he doesn't really put his full weight into his punches. See, he just threw it. He's just throwing his fists, that's all. There are different punching techniques, you know. This doesn't directly relate to the prediction. It's more about pure boxing, just the technique. For example, Bivol says, "I throw my fist like a stone." But that's not exactly true. That's just the way he puts it. In reality, he's not throwing just his fist. He's throwing his whole arm like a spear. Right? At the very least, from his fist to his elbow, it's like a spear, and that's what he throws and drives in. But this guy, no. He punches more by just swinging his fist, you could say. So it's a really interesting punching technique where the punch, in theory, isn't supposed to be powerful. Even these hooks, you see. Now he's about to throw some hooks. And pay attention. Look at his elbow. See how it's positioned downwards. That's normal when you're in your stance. But when you throw a punch, the elbow should come up. Basically, so you can drive your arm in. But his elbow stays down. Let's watch. Well, in other words, the punch is pretty decisive. He's about to finish this guy off now. So, it turns out to be a kind of paradox. Again, he just landed a counter 1-2 and went in to finish. It's a kind of paradox. It doesn't really have a direct connection to the prediction or to the odds of who will win or lose, but I find it interesting from a boxing perspective. So, Brian Norman, the way I see it, the way he punches like Timothy Bradley, basically like a helicopter. He doesn't really put his weight into the punch. He just swings his fist and that's it. But his opponents still go down. Why is that? Let's figure this out right now. I suggest we take a close look at Brian Norman's latest fight. What is it that allows Brian Norman to score knockouts? What qualities does he show in the ring? Our fighter is the one in the white boxing trunks. The first thing to pay attention to is that Norman has a good left hand, sharp, he jabs and gets out, and he's very agile. So, it looks like he's standing still, right? He doesn't run around the ring like Devin Haney. Look, he stays in place and feints. But when he needs to, he can easily move on his feet, either stepping back or darting forward. Let's take a closer look at that. He feints a lot. See, he missed on the hop, didn't reach, but he's really, really quick on his feet, very quick. That's the first point. By the way, that was Brian Norman's signature punch. He clips with a left hook, often while moving back, and here he throws it as a counter. Boom! He clipped him, right? I think I got it, by the way. There you go. So, this kind of boxer is really slippery. I'd say he's got a good jab, a strong lead hand. It's not just that he punches well, but he lands at really awkward moments, you know, in a way that's annoying and totally unexpected for his opponent. I'd call Brian Norman a spoiler, but you know what kind of spoiler he is? There are passive spoilers who just defend and mostly prevent their opponent from boxing. But this kind of spoiler is different. He makes things as uncomfortable as possible for his opponent, including launching his own attacks. So he does throw punches, but I don't think he hits particularly hard, even though he's a puncher. But he attacks at such awkward moments. Even that reverse 1-2, the right-left combination he throws. He throws it at the most awkward, most inconvenient times. Brian Norman is a very defensive fighter. In theory, someone like him shouldn't be taking many punches. Also, notice that he always takes a step back at the slightest sign of trouble. So, good job. He landed a jab. Now his opponent is about to have a sharp moment, and he'll run away. Well, maybe he did get caught this time, I'm not sure, but he still ran away right after. So, let's focus on Norman's strengths. He moves around in a circle. That's also a defensive tactic. He controls the distance, constantly feints, but his feints are subtle. In that sense, he's like Canelo, not necessarily always showing obvious fake moves, but he's always close to you, sometimes near, sometimes far. It seems like he's far away and you can't reach him, but then suddenly he's right on top of you again, making it feel like he could attack at any moment. His reverse 1-2 was especially nasty. Right hook, left straight. It's really hard to defend against that. And once again, Norman's signature punch. You saw it, right? That's his signature punch. Bam! It's called a check hook in Western boxing terms. Check means to check or stop, and hook is a hook punch. And again, those swings. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to talk about the power behind his punches. How does Brian Norman do it? I mean, he actually knocks people down, for real. From what I understand, his punch is all about accelerating the glove. Basically, his punches are essentially like swings. They can be different, they can be straight, side, whatever. But what I mean is, the essence of his punch isn't about piercing through the opponent or hitting hard in a traditional way. He throws it more like tossing a stone. With a good punch, you position your limbs so you can really drive it in. He doesn't really drive it in, but he's gotten so good at throwing his fist, like with a sling, that it actually works for him. Maybe it's because of the element of surprise. I don't know. Maybe his opponents just don't see it coming. But with these kinds of fast punches, by the way, his hands aren't actually that fast, but he really accelerates at the end. That acceleration at the end, and that turns out to be enough. The reverse 1-2. It's not the first time he's used the reverse 1-2. He loves throwing right-left, and that's enough for his opponent. There's about to be a knockout. Let's watch closely. Whoa, he clipped him. That's it. Now he's going to finish him off. He goes in to finish him off. He finishes him again with the reverse 1-2, right-left. Guys, I think everything's clear with the American, right? Or actually, is everything clear? Nothing is clear, but he's an unorthodox fighter, a strange fighter. There's no real power in his punch, but he's got good acceleration and it's really annoying. He reads the distance very well. He's really slippery. He runs away, then immediately comes back. You can't reach him. He's always hanging around right next to you. Basically, like a jackal. Well, I mean that in a good way, in a boxing sense. I mean, like a jackal. He doesn't seem strong, but whenever you want to get at him, he runs off into the darkness somewhere, and just when you relax, he's right back, ready to jump out and bite or sting you. That's Brian Norman. Let's move on to the Japanese fighter. Jin Sasaki, wearing white and black boxing trunks, is also an unconventional boxer. He specializes in swings, basically in hook punches. In some ways, he's similar to Oscar Valdez, especially with his left hook. Yeah, and he also lands shots to the liver. But that's pretty much the same thing. Left hook to the head, left hook to the liver. He throws it as a counter. Did you see? And he always doubles up on it. Let's rewind that one more time. I actually want to go all the way back to the beginning, 20 seconds in. But basically, he keeps doing the same thing. That's his signature move. Hooks, especially the left hook. Head body, he doubles up by switching levels. Let's watch. Body, head, and then head again. Once again, the body, the head. Well, basically, he does the same thing over and over. So, what are some of the features? Jin Sasaki takes a lot of hits. I didn't comment on all of this. Yeah, he lands on the head again, does the same thing with the body. It's like it's copied and pasted, but these are just his signature moves. These punches, those looping swings. And he takes a lot of hits. Now he's going to get hit in the head. Thud, thud again, thud on the forehead. Again. So Jin Sasaki, he took another shot from below, and another one. Jin Sasaki takes a lot of punches, and his boxing style is unorthodox. He just charges forward like that, and basically, like Valdez, he mostly throws hooks, especially doubling up, head, body, hook, right, left. But especially the left one. This fight is going to go the distance. I suggest we watch another Sasaki fight. Our Sasaki is the one in the red and yellow shorts. Well, the colorful ones, who's moving forward. His opponent is shorter, also Japanese, and basically, Sasaki is going to press forward against him. Now he's about to throw his signature punches. Oh, Sasaki takes a hit. So, just like in the last fight, notice how Sasaki takes a lot of punches to the head. Again, those looping punches, crosses, swings. By the way, interestingly, Sasaki didn't just take that. This is a knockdown, yeah. But I don't think he was really shaken. He just ended up in an unstable position. Still, it's a bad sign. Sasaki takes a lot of hits. He's a very careless boxer. Honestly, if you judge him strictly, you could say he doesn't really know how to box at all. I mean, in the classic sense, he really just knows how to charge forward with those swings and looping punches. But honestly, he's caught some kind of wave, and it's actually working for him. So, let's not judge him. Sometimes that's just how it is. What someone does really works for them. That's it. He landed a body shot on his opponent, and again, it's always the same thing. He goes up and down, head, body, and he keeps throwing those shots to the liver all the time. I feel like he's copying Canelo with those liver shots specifically. He really turns into it and throws hard behind the elbow. Also, what's interesting is that Sasaki's punching mechanics are actually very similar to Brian Norman's, oddly enough. He also throws punches by accelerating his fist, basically using a swinging motion. Even in that 1-2 combination we just saw, let's rewind it. It wasn't exactly a hard shot, but it was really fast. So it wasn't because he hit really hard. There wasn't a lot of force behind it, but he accelerated his arm and glove well, basically, like throwing a stone on a string. Let's watch. Boom, and that's it. So it was a knockout thanks to speed, a knockout at high speed. Sasaki also had a fight where he lost by stoppage. That was 3 years ago. I'll be honest, that bothered me. It's an important point. Let's see exactly how he lost. His chin is both weak and strong, but which is it, really? Our Sasaki is right-handed and shorter. By the way, here he's boxing even more awkwardly than he does now. And he was a very young boxer, so now he's 23 years old, but this fight happened 3 years ago. Sasaki rushed forward and tries to copy Tyson with those slips. But as you can see, it's not working for him, and here, he's only 20 years old in the ring. His opponent is a southpaw. The opponent is really putting power into his punches. Sasaki has a lot of fighting spirit, and that immediately draws attention to him. Even when he takes a hit, he acts like, come on, give me more. That punch was a bit low, but the referee didn't say anything. So, basically, over these 3 years, the Japanese boxer has made pretty good progress. Here, he's much worse than in his recent fights. But in terms of boxing, he's still doing the same things. So, just like Valdez in terms of punching mechanics, Sasaki throws hooks to the head and body. Now he's about to get knocked down here. I'm thinking, maybe it's not worth waiting for that. Let's start gradually moving on to how the fight against Brian Norman might play out. Look, honestly, this fight is like a volatile mix. There's going to be a beautiful moment here. A nice cut on the second try. The Japanese fighter showed a complex technique. Now. Yep, he slipped away. Watch, he's about to change direction, and as he does, he'll sharply catch him with a lead hook. Chuck, he cut it off. Sasaki lets it through. By the way, that's Brian Norman's signature punch. Sasaki is stunned. Sasaki goes down. He got finished off here. But it's okay, he'll get up and act like, come on, I'm ready. This fight is like a volatile mix. I agree that the American is the favorite. Just by points, he's going to dominate Sasaki, because Brian Norman is really good when it comes to scoring points. He really has a good jab, he's very slippery, and he's a really awkward opponent. He's a very defensive boxer. So, based on that, when it comes to points, Brian Norman is going to completely dominate. And besides, Sasaki is very one-dimensional. Basically, all he does are those swings. Left, right, head, body, head. It's always the same thing. And because of that, just on points alone, Brian Norman will totally outclass him. But could Sasaki actually win instead? Strangely enough, there are risks here too. First of all, the fight is just 2.5 months after his last one. So basically, the American is coming for the money. They promised him cash. He thinks he'll win easily, but with such a short break, he might not win after all. That's the first point. Second point. Boxers like this, who don't fight in the classic style, like Norman, right? Even if they're defensive, they can still get hit. So, even when he seems to be defending, all slippery and elusive. It's like Timothy Bradley. He's slippery, but when Ruslan Provodnikov went after him, he couldn't stop him because his boxing technique isn't classic. Same goes for Brian Norman. So, he'll run around the ring. Norman, you have to admit, he's good at running away. He really runs. He won't be able to stop him with punches, but he's really good at running away. That's something he definitely has, yeah. But still, there's always some risk. Theoretically, Sasaki could just go all in, catch Norman with something, and knock him down. But again, the more I watch and the more I think about it, the more convinced I am that no, it's still very unlikely. There's still a big difference here, especially when it comes to points. It's just too big. Sasaki is just way too straightforward when he charges in, even though he is improving, yeah, but still. And Brian Norman is just way too crafty. Yeah. Now, there was also the idea that Brian Norman would win specifically on points, right? Because I still don't see Brian Norman having that much knockout power. I just don't think he has it. But when I watched this last fight in particular, you can see how Sasaki is tumbling around here. And what's more, his opponent looks a lot like Norman, even caught him once with the same punch Norman throws. Norman's signature punch is that quick cut with the lead hand. Well, to be fair, his opponent is a southpaw, but still, the idea is the same. So, it's kind of unclear here too. It's hard to say whether it'll end early or go to the scorecards. So, guys, let's sum it up. My favorite here is definitely Brian Norman. And then, but to bet at such low odds, like 1.27 or whatever it was, I'm just not ready for that. Especially since the notice was so short, just 2.5 months. That's really not much time. That's honestly not enough time to prepare. And again, I'm not ready to bet on an upset either. So from a betting perspective, I'm skipping this fight. I've already placed a lot of bets for July. I posted a whole bunch of them. So, just from a boxing perspective, yeah, Norman is the favorite, definitely the favorite. He's strong, yeah, and that probably matches the odds. So, he's a really big favorite, for sure. Those are my thoughts. If you have any confidence in a particular outcome, or your own thoughts, feel free to share them in the comments. All the best to everyone. See you next time, turning off the camera.